Good afternoon, Wrestling Inc. Welcome back to the Wrestling Inc. Daily. It's me, your managing editor of WrestlingInc.com, Nick Hausman, joined here as I am every Monday to get the week going right, to recap all the pro wrestling news of most of the holiday week. It's our good friend, Michael Wiseman. Michael, welcome back to the Wrestling Inc. Daily.
News of the week. This is the last Winkly that we'll do together this year, 2021 coming to a close. This is I honestly, Nick, I was sitting on the couch earlier today watching, I'm taking this week off, watching The Matrix, scrolling through Twitter. I saw you tweet and I was like, oh shit, we have a podcast today, because time becomes nebulous around the holidays sometimes, right? So I remembered earlier in the day, which prepped me for this, but I'm happy to be here. Still in my pajamas in the lower half, business in the top, party in the bottom, but we're going to do this thing and I'm excited to be here with you on Monday.
Well, I was out in California here for the over the past week or so. No internets, turned off the Gmail notifications, deleted Twitter, got rid of Facebook because I was celebrating some good news. J-Pac here, one of our chatters. Hello, Nick and Michael. Congrats, Nick, on your engagement. Yes, everybody. I didn't want to say anything on Friday, even though I already knew that it happened. But yes, Liz and I are officially engaged. I'm gonna get married. I'm gonna become an adult. And that's really good news. I want to thank everybody for the well wishes out there. We have Sherrod Jones. Hell yeah, Nick. Jumping the broom. Is that a thing people say?
I feel like that's from something in pop culture, but maybe I'm just wrong. So
I didn't know. A. O'Donnell, 025. Greetings from the airport. Also, congratulations, Nick. Thank you all so much. It's been wonderful. We went out there. I took her to Alcatraz as the traditional thing to do when you are marrying somebody from San Francisco.
Is that a thing?
Gotta take the Rock to the Rock, baby. If the Rock had been there, that'd have been so we were just short one rock. But anyway,
it's like you would basically be doing the Spider-Man No Way Home of engagements at that point. So
yes, yeah, exactly. I haven't seen it yet, but spoiler alert. So I want to thank everybody for that really positive news. It was wonderful to get away for a week, clear my head, come back here, dive into everything that was going on in pro wrestling. But a bit of a stutter start for me personally here this week, as I again haven't looked at wrestling news for over a week and was away. Sure enough, I turned on my Twitter timeline, and within about 45 minutes, unfortunately, I found out that a very good friend of mine named Marcus Crane passed away. And man, I didn't think I was gonna get choked up.
Oof. Sorry, dude.
Sorry, I thought I'd keep it together. So, Marcus, I need a second here real fast. I'm gonna pour a beer. I brought beer for Marcus.
Sure. Very, very tragic news I saw today breaking out. I did not know Marcus, obviously, as close as you did, Nick, and I know you have stories you want to share, but for those who didn't know, he was a performer for Game Changer Wrestling. I know he's done lots of stuff all across in various indies. And I saw the outpouring of support from the pro wrestling community today for the loss of life at the age of 33, unfortunately.
Yeah. So, drinking Stone Cold beer, by the way, for Marcus. Marcus was just one of those people. Like, I remember the first time I ever saw him was an AEW show, and he just looked like this insane human being. And he was running around. He was running around like this monkey across the ring, and he was just throwing himself around. And man, I was like, man, I want to be friends with that guy. And
yeah.
So yeah, it's been a great many years with Marcus since that happened, and you know, I think maybe tomorrow I'll be able to do this a little bit better.
Sure.
But you know, he was a really good guy who always wanted to have fun and never really wanted to break anybody down. Although I know that, you know, towards the end when after he had, you know, suffered that horrible brain injury and head injury that I think a lot of people know about now, I think his decision making maybe slipped a little bit after that, the year or so. But, you know, the last I know about Marcus was that, you know, he was celebrating some sobriety. He moved back closer to his family, and he was really trying to get himself together, you know. And it was very surprising news for me, and he's a really good friend, and I'm gonna miss him a lot.
So sorry for your loss, Nick, and
Sorry, guys. I'm
you're
sorry.
good, man. This is
I didn't even know if I should do this show today. I was like, "Are you gonna be able to keep it together?" But anyway,
everybody. Please just loss is tough like this, especially if
yeah,
close friends, close family. I know a lot of people feeling the loss of Marcus, and I would just say, everybody, pour one out for Marcus this week
yeah,
as you get a chance around the holidays.
yeah.
Stay close to your loved ones. Text
So,
that friend you've not texted in a while. Reach out to people, man. I'm sorry for your loss, Nick, and
yeah.
just know we're all here for you, dude.
Thanks, brother. Yeah, I know I see some people asking how he passed, and I know that's people could consider that a really considerate question, and I do want everyone to know that it doesn't sound like anything to be nefarious. He had a really bad head injury, and I just think it kind of caught up to him. So anyway, um, sending all of my best to his family and all of his friends. He liked to drink, or did before he was getting sober, I guess. So maybe the wrong tribute for him, but I love you, Marcus, and I miss you. And
Thank you for that, Nick. We talk a lot about loss on this show, and I think it's always important to remember at all these wrestling stories we cover, there is an emotional human component, especially
oh,
to the ones that have loss. And
yeah,
today, I think we
so
experienced some of that with you, Nick. So I'm just
yeah,
really sorry for you, man.
it's okay. It happens. Part of life is death. So anyway, I'm gonna try to move on here a little bit. Like I said, I didn't expect to completely
Good.
lose my composure there, but
Good. Keeping it real. You watch us every week, every day with Nick, right? We're
we-
human beings too, right?
yeah, I thought I was gonna be fine. I'm usually pretty good in these situations, but I hadn't really said those words out loud yet, and it hit me a lot harder than I expected. So, and I see all the nice things everybody's saying in the comments section.
It's a very, very touching tribute for a man who was definitely, it seems like, had a super huge impact on so many with just being himself, being authentic, being his great, crazy self. And that's what we need more of in the world. People who are willing to be different, be authentic, and go out there and do their own damn thing sometimes. And it's pretty cool. So
Yeah. All right. So go buy some Dream Eater clothing or something like that. That was Marcus's line today. Whatever. But I want to thank you guys just for giving me a couple minutes there. I had all these other memories and stuff I was going to share, but I think I'll filter them out at another date. So anyway, let's get to the show.
do it.
We got a lot of news to get to here. We had like 9-10 days worth of news for me to get through. So I picked like 5 or 6 of the biggest items that I thought would be fun to talk about here today, or worth talking about here today. So we'll get into some of that, and then later on in the mailbag, we're going to talk about tag teams and who you thought had the best 2021 of all the tag teams. We're going to do some categories this week here in the mailbag to kind of mix it up. So
And we're going to talk about the Cody news here in a little bit, but I went to that show last week in Greensboro, North Carolina. So I have a little bit of a personal take on the take of the Cody news here. So yeah.
Okay, wonderful. Well, we're going to start with WWE news, and it is time for news you can use, news that will leave a bruise. We're going to start off with unfortunately having to tackle the COVID-19 news in WWE and just pro wrestling again in general. So we'll get through this, and then I promise there's stuff on the other side. But yeah, PW Insider was the first to report that a number of WWE talents and staff were reportedly feeling run down coming to last weekend's live events and TV tapings. Some have since tested positive for coronavirus. There were additional talents and staff who tested positive throughout Wednesday. Obviously, we're all experiencing this wave with Omicron, and those talents have not been identified for obvious reasons, but there were also a number of talents who were contacted and asked to get tested out of an abundance of caution. Seth Rollins has confirmed on Twitter, it appears he's having a COVID Christmas, so I think he's saying he's got coronavirus there. It should be noted Edge replaced him at the WWE Madison Square Garden show, taking on Kevin Owens in a steel cage match. But it goes on here. So WrestleVote saying, regarding talent availability for this Saturday's Day 1 pay-per-view, Word is that if the show was held tonight, multiple matches would have to be changed. WWE officials hopeful that they can keep the card as is, but everything is, quote, fluid at this point. Sounds pretty sticky wicket here, does it not?
Card subject to change, right? We don't know how things are going to play out. Unfortunately, we are still in a global pandemic. We have a new variant. Some of these things are breaking down the defenses we've been building up with vaccines and boosters and all that stuff. And these guys, remember, are wrestling, right? They're in each other's faces. So I'm not entirely surprised we are going through that winter surge. Hopefully nobody's going to get too sick from all of this. Hopefully they've been vaccinated, and that helps break down the severity of the sickness here. So yeah, I think for me, the big thing is we're talking about we don't want, WWE Day One to turn into WWE Patient Zero. We're going to get the whole roster sick here. And I look at this match last night, Edge replacing Seth Rollins in the main event. So those fans got a treat. They got Edge versus KO, a kind of a dream match for many, which I think is really cool that Edge could just kind of pile in there and do that. But this big hyped pay-per-view for WWE Day One, I think they're okay, Nick, if they can, if Roman and Brock stay healthy, like keep these guys off the road, put them in some kind of thing. That's your show in a nutshell to me. But we'll see how they roll with the punches. And sometimes WWE does better rolling with those punches, right?
And I feel like Roman was pulled from the house shows over this weekend as well, though I can't cite that, but I do know, that was put out there. But Eddie's Harry 99 saying, so which with the COVID outbreak, maybe the Day One card is going to change dramatically. Seth Rollins will potentially be out of the title match, and maybe Becky as well, due to her contact with Seth, which is all reasonable, And look, we don't know how big this is going to be. Interesting, to see how the card will shift, but I just feel bad, for everybody involved here.
Sure.
You don't want to go to work and feel in danger, and when you're literally rolling around in your underwear during a pandemic, you're putting yourself in a great deal of risk. Which is why this Fightful report today really surprised me. So several top WWE stars are sidelined this week with COVID, as they confirmed. But WWE is taking measures the opposite way within NXT. The Performance Center talent was informed this past weekend that they're no longer requiring the twice weekly COVID testing that had previously been mandatory. The WWE main roster also got an email being informed the weekly testing isn't required. It wasn't noted if there was a vaccine or vaccination qualifier adding to that ruling, but this ruling didn't sit well with several within the company today, considering how shorthanded the company is with COVID infection as is. And I wonder what spot this puts Roman in, right? After he's been so vociferous about, how he does not want to be in an environment where he feels uncontrolled because of his own immune deficiencies after battling cancer. I worry. I totally understand the concerns of other performers. I'm hoping there is more to this, right? Because we've also read reports that WWE was, kind of cutting out people because they were not getting vaccinated.
Sure.
Maybe they're at a point now where they're at full vaccination. Maybe they don't need it. But part of me does not think that is to be the case, though we could be wrong. Who knows?
Well, especially when you have, to your point, Nick, about Roman Reigns, we have at-risk populations on the roster wrestling every week being exposed to this. And I think that's kind of the question for me is, how do these talent feel about it? How do you handle that? It is worth pointing out, I think the CDC has shortened that quarantine timeline. I think they said earlier they were recommending it 5 days now instead of 10 days. So you look at some of these over the weekend, positive tests. Maybe they're going to be back to some of these guys who are getting positive, or women who are being positive tested over the weekend could be back by next weekend. And maybe WWE saying, hey, we don't care as much if you have a positive test because the time in between the shows will be enough to go away. But I don't personally agree with this because it is a close contact sport, and it does sound like the roster is diminished right now anyway. But they make decisions as they want to, I guess. So we'll see what happens. We'll see the backlash, I guess.
It's going to be interesting to see what happens tonight on Raw, who shows up, who doesn't show up. But, I hope that, again, this is just a scratching the surface kind of comment. I hope there's more to it here, because it would seem very reckless in a situation to be doing nothing at a time when all kinds of cases are spiking. But again, we'll see. So I haven't watched this yet. I had a fun morning, Michael, between everything I talked about with my good friend Marcus, and then my DVR I found out overheated while I was out of town. My plan was to come back today, watch all the wrestling in like like 10, 12 hour, stretch I was going to start at like 8 a.m. So that was off the table. Tech guy came, gave me a new DVR, but none of the information transferred. So I got to watch Rampage and Dynamite today via a source online, because where do you find those?
Can I get my plug in here, Nick? And
Yeah.
this is why, the days of overheating DVRs, and I wish we had a sponsor for this, but I use YouTube TV. Other than the ESPN scare last weekend, I'm very happy with it, and I love the cloud-based DVR. It'd be hard to go back. But listen, y'all, if you are watching Raw and SmackDown on the regular, and that's the main reason you have cable, Hulu, day after, and I'm not talking about the Hulu with live TV, just the base level, whatever, $10 a month subscription, you can watch day after Raw, day after SmackDown, day after NXT. And they condense Raw a little bit. But if you are trying to get your WWE fix, Hulu.
All right. Well, I can't live tweet and say dumb things if I watch it the day after, Mike. It's part of the experience, part of the ritual of watching now. So anyway, like I said, I watched Rampage, I watched Dynamite, because those two things kind of played off of each other. And looking at our analytics, there seemed to be much more news around those shows than what WWE offered in the past week. But I will get to all of the WWE stuff tomorrow. But what I haven't seen but have read about was apparently during a Raw vignette with Austin Theory, Vince McMahon said the following. He said, "I enjoy firing people. I especially enjoy firing people just before the holidays. It gives me a warm feeling in my stomach, like I had just a really good meal." So anyway, obviously he actually did just release a lot of people in real life just before the holidays. Taya Valkyrie, who's been very outspoken about her release and others' releases, took to Twitter, said that all Vince did with a comment like that was light a fire under her. Is this good for bad guy Mr. McMahon, or over the line poor taste? How did you feel about Vince's line about enjoying firing people before the holidays?
It's hard to read. I know he is the character, Mr. McMahon, right? And I know all of that, but in this year, we're more, I think I read somewhere, roughly, more stars let go from their contracts, fired, and big names fired this year than any previous year with WWE, right? This was a very bad year for all the talent and who got fired. And I think a lot of talent are on pins and needles already from what the reports I've read. You feel like you don't have the job security. It doesn't look good around the holidays. So I think it was just some bad taste, especially because, again, Vince McMahon, the character on screen, is still supposed to be some kind of, I know he's a character, but he's some kind of reflection of Vince McMahon, the guy who actually makes these decisions and does those things. It's not like he's Chris Hemsworth playing Thor, and we know that Chris Hemsworth isn't actually a god of thunder, right? So I feel like I get it. I know what they're doing with Vince on screen, but bad taste right now this year.
Yeah.
And
I think so. I think definitely bad taste, but I don't think he cares, right? I guess old school just getting heat, right? But I mean, certainly.
Does it feel like to you, Nick, that he sometimes takes the excuse of being like, this is for a storyline, but I'm still going to get through my agenda through the characters that I put together for a storyline?
Are you asking me if WWE's creative is a multi-layered bit of business by Vince McMahon? Yeah, I think there's a lot more going on than the surface level stuff that the children take in from the WWE product. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's it. Well, okay.
And Rob Humphrey here saying, I don't know, Hemsworth might be the god of thunder. So, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. All right. Lastly here, before we get to the AEW stuff, the Observer saying December 17th edition of 205 Live featuring Lash Legend going up against Saray, who won the bout. Well, this is Lash Legend's second match before her big debut. The Legend versus Saray match received significant criticism for being one of the worst WWE TV matches in some time. This I have caught large portions of. I guess I could only find portions because the match was heavily edited. The bout was cut down to 3 minutes of highlights, and still in that form was described as the worst WWE TV match this year. Legend is being blamed for this match. I would think it's the case. It does take two to tango, but Saray, top-notch, Legend, new to the game. I don't know if you saw any of what happened here, but man, what a bowling shoe ugly train wreck this was.
I don't understand how they made the decision to put this. I mean, so green, right? Talent so green on TV, getting them out in front of a massive audience. And I think it's really a really bad taste for your product, especially whenever for so long NXT and 205 Live have been known as 205 Live for years was the workhorse brand. You're going to get some great matches. Nobody's talking about it, but we have young talent who are super talented delivering great paydays on that show. And it feels like they're just trying to force people through the WWE system as quickly as they can. And I don't know. This is a bad taste for me when it comes to what these shows mean anymore. Like, what does NXT mean? But especially 205 Live. Like, it's just
well, and I was reading some Kevin Owens comments from the Pat Lepard interview that came out after he had re-signed, and he was talking about NXT 2.0, and he's like, I don't dislike it, but you can't call it NXT. It's different. Sure. You know, it's like a different show. He's like, this isn't what I know NXT to be, right? He compared it to Ring of Honor, where he's like, you watched Ring of Honor towards the end. It was just a different, not bad, but just a different product than like what his generation of Ring of Honor was about. So, yeah, I think there's a lot of people that are struggling to kind of figure out what NXT is right now, you know?
And I understand. There's this mentality that if we can put them out there, maybe they'll show. Maybe they're going to get that. Sometimes you need the reps and you need the experience of doing it before you get there, right? But in my mind, this is still a failure somewhere because the checks and balances here. We're talking about a bad TV match that doesn't look good on TV, but talent that green can also hurt one another in the ring, as we have seen before. And to me, it's ultimately about how safe are the talent being with each other, right? And I think that's the other danger. Not that this was an unsafe match for what I saw of the 3 minutes that it was cut down to, but it's still, you run that risk, right? I don't know.
Well, and again, you're working with people now that you're building from the bottom up, right? You're not bringing in indie wrestlers, and you got to give these people in-ring experience at some point. And,
Sure.
you know, I don't know how long she's been in their system. I don't know if it was a kind of S or get off the pot type thing where we got to see what she does, get her out there. I mean, she's already doing vignettes, man. So, like, you would think that matches aren't far behind. I'm interested to see what happens with old Lash Legend here now.
But here's one more thing about this, Nick, that you look down. Let's just imagine Nick Khan's ledger, his Excel spreadsheet of all the talent and the money they're paying them and how much they make on merch and everything else. I guarantee you this 3 minutes of TV time still costs them per talent way less than previous 205 Live matches. It's that, I forget which autobiography it was in recently, but that kind of Vince McMahon line about why he doesn't like tag team matches. And it's because he's paying 4 wrestlers for one, you know, however long that match is, instead of just paying 2 wrestlers for it, right? And you see that mentality here. By the item line on the Excel spreadsheet, this was probably a pretty cheap match for Nick Khan to put on TV, right?
Oh yeah, for sure, absolutely. So, you know, anyway, we'll see what happens with Lash Legend here. All right, let's get to some firsthand correspondence. So, this past Saturday night on the AEW Rampage, it's called Christmas Bash or Holiday Bash.
It was the Christmas. Oh, I see. It was a Holiday Bash. It was a Holiday Bash, red and green. Yeah.
Okay, Holiday Bash. All right. So anyway, main event: Cody Rhodes defeats Sammy Guevara to become the AEW TNT champion for the third time. I apologize. Fan feedback largely been negative, but you would think that was supposed to be the case here.
Sure.
Michael, what do you want to tell us about this third TNT title win from Cody Rhodes?
I want to take half a step back here and just say, I know we're going to get to that on myself here in a minute, but it was just a fantastic night of wrestling. AEW does put on a great live show, and I love the way they pair Dynamite with Rampage. So you go there, you show up a little bit early, get some of the AEW Dark Elevation stuff, hit Dynamite, hit Rampage. It is a long night. The crowd was definitely burning out by the time we were getting to the Rampage piece of the taping. But kudos to Tony Khan, who comes out and like kind of hypes up the matches they're going to have throughout the night and says, hey, make sure you stay till the end. And I remember him saying this, we're going to have Cody Rhodes, Sammy Guevara for the AEW TNT title. So kind of a good way to hype it up there. And I like his involvement, Tony Khan's involvement in these live events. Here's what I will say. We are in Greensboro, North Carolina, right? The classic stomping grounds. We had this, incredible card all night long. Cody Rhodes, Southern legend, right? His dad, a Southern legend right there. And the crowd freaking hated Cody Rhodes, and it was glorious. He came out and got the boos, right? He was presented the title by Jim Crockett. And it's just everything about this. Listen, this was a banger of a match too. Got to give props to both Sammy Guevara and Cody Rhodes. If you've not seen the match, watch it. Great near falls, great chemistry. But I love what Cody is doing with this character. If he's drawing boos in Greensboro, North Carolina, dude is doing this heel thing exactly right. Even though he's not a heel, he's totally a heel.
Oh yeah. This was Cody, I think, definitively making I mean, maybe he's gonna come out, try to be baby and just get booed and pretend, but like he did and he's been doing the double underhook, thing for a little bit, but like it's so I'm Triple H, right? It's just like blatantly just rubbing it in your face, and he's trying to get you to dislike him. So look, great heel. Glad he made the turn. Sure gonna enjoy Brandy as a flat out heel, like with them together, as opposed to whatever's been going on with them before. And what happened afterwards with Hook? Because he got a lot of blowback for the no-sell spot with Bear Bronson.
So that was the other thing is Hook got quite a reaction. Hook opened up the Dynamite taping and or the Rampage taping, I should say, excuse me. So he was the first match after Dynamite ended. And the crowd definitely spent itself on that Dynamite main event, that 3-on-3 match with Sting and CM Punk and Darby Allin in one corner against FTR and MJF. And that was another great main event. And then we'll talk about some of the Dynamite stuff here in a minute. But the Rampage show opened up with Hook, if I remember correctly. And the crowd was into Hook. This guy was his second match. Crowd totally into him. People were talking about the no-sell of Hook, that he no-sold a pile driver or whatever. And I don't remember that moment specifically, but also, if I remember correctly or read correctly, Taz did the exact same thing, right? And they're building this guy up as the heir to Taz. So I don't know beyond the controversy beyond that.
Okay, I will say that. Is it controversial to do a no-sell? I don't know. Kind of depends, right? That particular no-sell, I thought looked bad. Okay. I thought it just looked I mean, I don't know if you watched it back on TV. It just looked flat, right? Like if he just stood up and done like, something like this, kind of like done like this, where it's like you hurt, but you didn't hurt me that bad. This guy just rolled up and just stood there and just kind of like went back to it. I was like, come on, man. Like you got to do, I get what you're going for, but like you got to give a little, man. Like that's my opinion,
Okay. And again, I didn't see it on TV. Fair feedback. Didn't notice the kind of the controversy around that spot, but the crowd was behind Hook, which I was surprised by, but that's a good sign.
So did him and Cody do a gimmick then after the show? Like what happened with these two?
I didn't see anything about that. Now we left right as Cody was celebrating, kind of beat the crowd out the door. So if they did anything post match, I was not there for it.
You can learn more about that over at wrestling.com. Well, Kyle O'Reilly, he debuted for AEW on Dynamite last Wednesday. He helped Adam Cole pick up a win over Orange Cassidy. He, Cole, and Fish are going to take on the Best Friends this Wednesday, AEW New Year's Bash. And it was teased that Cole wasn't sure who his friends were between the Young Bucks, who came out looking like, I don't even know, like hipsters. And the Undisputed, not even hipsters, like 80s pop artists, and the Undisputed Era. It's cool. I think this is I like this. It's Adam Cole, of all the big signings, maybe not more than Bryan Danielson, because he's in the main event and he's doing really well. But he immediately has become a fully fleshed out character with like a lot of different things going on. And I like that about Adam Cole. I think it's the dynamic with him and around him is fun.
They were able to build up on his background with the Bucks, on BTE, with NXT now by bringing in the Undisputed Era. And that's what's making him an interesting character, right? Because he has this backstory that a guy like Daniel Bryan, he was in WWE, but they're not building on stuff he did there necessarily other than advertising him as a multi-time champion. CM Punk hasn't wrestled in how many years? Adam Cole feels like that guy they brought over and immediately is just picking up the gauntlet and running with it. And I think this was a great debut. If you're going someplace with this trio and you want to immediately establish Undisputed Era as being a big deal in AEW, which they already are, going up against the Young Bucks is the way to do it. My question is Kenny Omega going to be back to kind of pick up the mantle and go against these guys?
The Observer was saying last week there's no timetable for Kenny to come back. I mean, he's getting some pretty serious surgery. So I would even say I'd say 20% if Kenny Omega comes back, because he's getting serious spinal surgery done here. We'll figure out how he plays into everything. But for the moment, I like Adam Cole here kind of being torn in this world. I wonder what goes on with him. And I thought Kyle O'Reilly's debut was cool, but holy crap. Like, our AEW refs, dumb. They are just stupid. I have come to a conclusion. I'm going to have Jimmy Corderas on next week, I'm sure, to talk about WWE Day 1. And I don't want to go full Corderas on this. Like, I would have just let O'Reilly, Cole, and Fish just beat down Orange Cassidy. Take the DQ. I know you guys are like, we don't do DQ finishes. Guess what? Bullshit. You do them. The ref just isn't looking. Like, the next time you watch AEW and the ref's not looking when a DQ happens, think to yourself, what if a competent referee was officiating this match? How much higher would the DQ finishes for AEW matches go? Because there are a lot of DQ finishes that just are not acknowledged, and then they become clean finishes when somebody hits a pin or submission. And that happens a lot. I realized that today watching all their stuff beginning to end. So anyway.
It's a fair point. And the referees are already kind of, their own characters in AEW. So, but I one thing I want to say, though, about the Kyle O'Reilly debut, talking about the way he popped out there, his last kind of exit of NXT, I'm not going to say felt weak because you have to put over the young guy or whatever else, but they immediately reestablished the badass Kyle O'Reilly that we got shades of. When Kyle O'Reilly was staring down Adam Cole towards the end of Adam Cole's run in NXT, Kyle O'Reilly felt like a freaking badass, and they immediately spun and brought him back to that role on Wednesday night. And I think, hey, these guys, Undisputed Era, are going to pick up where they left off in NXT. They're going to be a big deal for AEW moving forward.
Well, lastly here, before we get to the mailbag, the Observer saying one more big deal could be coming to AEW is Johnny Gargano heavily considering AEW. No word on if AEW and Gargano have had contract talks or if Gargano is planning on signing, but he's weighing that option. It was speculated that we could see him debut during the January 26th edition of AEW Dynamite on TNT. That takes place from the Wolfstein Center in Cleveland. That is Gargano's home. Obviously, a big pop if he came out there. I love this story because it's like a nothing story with a lot of stuff like weaved together as maybes. But sure, I mean, let's just say he does debut at AEW January 26th, his hometown. Great. But what do you do with the Johnny Gargano? I feel like there's already so many guys fighting for that spotlight right now,
Yeah, and he's such a good guy, right? Like, I know we've had shades of Johnny Gargano as the bad guy in NXT, but he plays that babyface role so well, and kind of that underdog role. I'm trying to conquer everything. I just worry sometimes, classic argument here, AEW's roster is getting so full. What spot can Gargano come in and pick up that is going to be a long-term thing? Because again, that top of the roster, we saw Punk out there, Daniel Bryan's in the main event picture. You want to keep guys like Hangman Page around. There's only so many spots in that roster, and Gargano's a great talent and too great of a talent to get lost in that shuffle.
All right, Michael, I want to thank you for joining me at Top Show Talk, all the news today. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in and jumping into the comment section. We got a little bit more to go here in the mailbag, so let's get to it. At Wink Daily, WINC Daily, that's the account to follow. You want to vote in our daily polls. Today's poll question kicks off our week's worth of 2021. I guess we'll call them the Wink Daily's Awards, maybe? Is this our unofficial awards? People are voting.
Can we bring back a classic name and call them the Winklies?
Sure.
The Winklies.
Welcome to the Winklies. We're recycling that name. That is now our end of the year awards, and we're determining them like we determine everything with a poll. So it takes no qualifications to vote. It does issue, I think, a 1-to-1 voting. You can't vote multiple times unless you have multiple accounts. And if you do, dude, stop. Like, that's weird. Don't be that guy.
You might have to be 18 to open up a Twitter account. I don't know. So you got to be 18 to vote.
Hey, and you know what? That's good. Kids shouldn't vote on the Winklies. I think that's a good call. So anyway, here's our first Winkley award of the year. We're going to basically announce the tag team of the year. Who was the best tag team 2021? Was it the Bucks, the Usos, FTR, or somebody else? Looks like I picked three good ones because 95% of the vote went to the three I listed. Of over 200 votes, 37.2 go to the Usos. Our winners, 34.8 just behind them at the Young Bucks, and 22.7 for FTR. Who do you think was which tag team do you think had the best 2021?
Man,
Michael?
you did pick some great ones here. My three favorites, probably. I could dig into the memory banks and say there were some great matches with the New Day, and we had some other great talent. I mean, there's just tons of great talent across the board here, but the Usos being there with Roman Reigns added some credibility. I would say, though, Nick, my personal opinion on this, love the Usos, the Young Bucks, right? They did for Kenny Omega what the Usos did for Roman Reigns, but also the Young Bucks were able to deliver their own main event level matches in some key ways early in the year that I still think about. The Young Bucks deserve this. They were robbed by all of you people out there.
Well, I saw a lot of write-ins for the Lucha Brothers. I think they had a great year, too. I think a good case could be made for the New Day. Usos are main event players now. Like, I don't know that you can have a better, month after month, those guys clout went up, in pro wrestling. I think that kind of speaks for itself. The Young Bucks are EVPs. They're going to have whatever year they want, right? Yep. And you know what? I kind of think that's why FTR may have grabbed me here, especially in the last couple months this year. The AAA titles, have really kind of brought something out in them. It's given them something to brag about, kind of put them like they want to be title hunters. It also puts them at odds, with all of Latin America. It was a good year I think they're ending the year decidedly one of the strongest tag teams.
Sure. I love FTR. And the people shout out Lucha Bros. Love them as well. Lucha Express. I mean, we're not talking about here our Jurassic Express with Luchasaur and Jungle Boy, like they've had a fantastic year and are probably going to be your next AEW tag team titles. AEW is rich in talent. I love the Usos. So y'all voted for them. But again, Young Bucks, man, we go back to whatever it was that May pay-per-view, and they had just one of the best matches of the year. So
yeah. And Mike M here saying the Briscoes. I don't think the Briscoes had the best 2021, but if they play their cards right and behave themselves, they could be in line for a great 2022 because people know the Briscoes. Jay in particular is just a money talent. Mark is great too, but man, there's something about Jay's aura when he walks through the curtain that just, I mean, they're crazy. They don't mind getting violent. I think that there could be a lot of fun opponents for them in 2022. Again, if they play their cards right and behave themselves. Sure. And I see Ricky Zaldivar, RK Bro. RK Bro is a fun act. I don't know that I call them the best. I don't know the best tag team, you know?
Sure. I agree. They're kind of occupied, but you know what? They've done more for that Raw tag team title than anybody's done in quite some time. So there's some magic to this. Pull Randy Orton in. Let's do two kind of singles wrestlers as a tag team for a while.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's going to bring us to the end of the Wrestling Inc. Daily here for today. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I want to thank you all that stuck around through the opening of the show, and I pretty much just had a mental breakdown. But this stuff happens, and tomorrow, hopefully, I'll start and I'll more soundly articulate some of the things I wanted to say about Marcus. But come on back tonight after the end of WWE Raw. We're going to be live with the Wrestling Podcast. We got that all week after the big shows, including this Saturday night after WWE Day 1. We're going to have big coverage blown out this weekend all around that. And, hey, card subject to change in regards to WWE Day 1. We'll see what happens here tonight. And, of course, support WrestlingInc.com on all the socials and give the Wrestling Inc. Daily a nice iTunes review if you haven't yet. That really, we're looking to get the wheels moving again. I appreciate everybody who listened to all the archived interviews I released last week. Many of them did far better than I was expecting. So great. But this week, we're back doing the real thing, the real deal. Let's get everything moving. Go leave a nice iTunes review if you have not. Michael, what do you want to put over here before we wrap up the show today?
I think I did this before Christmas, but I'll do it again right now. And I just want to say, capping off the year for the last podcast that I assume I'll be doing with you this year, I just want to thank everybody who has been on this journey with you and me, and especially you every day throughout the entirety of 2021. Listen, it's been tough for a lot of people. I know the pandemic has been like an accordion on and off again this year. So just thank you for spending an hour a week with me, or half an hour a week with me, and all the time you spend with Wrestling Inc. and the whole family. It's just good to talk wrestling, Nick, with you and have all of them in the crowd. So just appreciate all of you, and hope you enjoy the rest of your 2021.
Yes, absolutely, everybody. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I am at Nick_Hausman over on Twitter. I'll talk to you tomorrow. I got EJ Cameron back in the house. And remember, if you winked, you didn't miss it.